Possibly not, because for nearly 200 years, Stevens Mill and its cells have graced the landscape of Cambridgeshire. Early this year, the windmill, which is part of the Burwell Museum, was put on English Heritage's Buildings at Risk register. In a state of disrepair, the cap and the sails are at risk of blowing off in a storm, apparently. And yesterday, our reporter Steve Jackson met with Paul Hawes, who's the chairman of Burwell Museum, and Luke Bonwick from the Windmill Restoration Company. Here we go, fingers crossed. We're in.
Absolutely beautiful here this morning. The sun's streaming through on all the frost. And as we walk round the corner of the barn here, there is Stevens Mill. Paul, what is the history of the mill?
Well, we think it was built about 200 years ago, and it last worked in about 1957. Wasn't allowed to demolish the mill because it's a listed building, and it was sold to the Burwell Windmill Trust for £5 in the late 70s. Since then, it's sort of got a bit in disrepair, and so we called in Luke Bonwick to help us sort it out.
This is fairly unique, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, it's one of the best examples around here, and certainly the process of turning them into houses loses the machinery inside. So you can see that this one is complete, its upper works are complete up there, and as we go inside you'll be able to see that the internal machinery is complete as well.
What are we looking at here?
Well, this is the Millstone Floor. As you can see here, there are 3 pairs of millstones, so the mill has got a great deal of capacity. When it was working hard in a strong wind, it could probably drive all 3 pairs of stones at a time.
How many tons of flour would a windmill have produced at that time?
With one of these pairs of millstones, you could fill a sack of flour in about 15 minutes, and that's a 32 kilo sack.
Right, let's go up yet another old ladder into the next level. Oh, there we go. So this is the 3rd level.
This was the bin floor, and this is where the sacks of grain would have been tipped out into the storage bins before the grain was transferred into the millstones by gravity. You can see here, this is part of the chain hoist known as the sack hoist, and that's also powered by wind, this huge leather belt here, and the miller had control of this. By pulling a rope, he could start or stop the hoist working to lift the sacks of grain, which are very heavy, right up to the top of the mill without having to put them on his back and do it himself, which would have been very laborious.
Well, there's been a few pigeons in here, haven't there? So this is all the gearing for the sails for the windmill.
That's right. The sails of the mill are mounted on that end of the large metal shaft which comes in, passes in at an angle. The mill's only got 2 sails. You can really only develop about 60% of the power that you can with 4 sails. So to put 4 sails back will not only improve the look of the landmark, but it will function a bit better as well.
Do you have another set of sails around, Paul, or is that part of the fundraising?
Part of the fundraising. We did, several years ago, get a quote for the next set of sails, and that was about £18,000. I remember it working with 4 sails, because when I was a schoolboy I used to bring corn here with a horse and cart.
Paul Hawes, chairman of Burwell Museum, alongside Luke Bonwick from the Windmill Restoration Company, speaking to our reporter at BBC Radio Cambridgeshire, Steve Jackson.